Okay, we are live. We got to let it breathe just for a moment here, bringing on the entirety of our community. It only takes a second. Y'all know this. Instagram, come on, punch in. There we go. All right. And we are good. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. And with me is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, I want to talk about this first. Just when we had kind of given up on the notion of the Broncos bringing in any other veteran running backs, JK Dobbins to be specific, a guy I always liked. Um, all of a sudden, he had a meeting today, in Denver, no imminent contract offer per Mike Kliss. What do you make of this whole thing?
I think it's a little due diligence to see where Dobbins is at. He's had some injury history, Chad. Torn Achilles, torn up knee, MCL sprain last season. So I think they wanted to see where he's at physically. He had dinner with the Broncos coaches last night. He toured the facility at Broncos Park today. He was put through a workout. Sean Payton said he's a good football player that can give us an opportunity to help us win more games, but he left without a contract. So I don't know what to make of it. Evan Engram left without a contract too, and he visited, and then he eventually put pen to paper. So it's two different schools of thought. Are they comfortable with RJ Harvey and Estime, or do they want a more experienced running back in the backfield?
That's true. That's actually what I thought of too when I knew he had left without a deal. Was I thought back to the Evan Engram situation, and the way that came out in the wash was obviously fortuitous for the Broncos. We're going to talk about Evan Engram today, but Zack, you had the article for us. Here's what Sean Payton said after practice today on Dobbins. Quote, he's coming in. I think he got in last night. I think he's in the building, or he's going to be in the building here pretty soon. We'll have a chance to visit with him. We'll see where it goes. And they kind of press him because he was trying to be a little surface about it. He said, quote, just another good football player that we've seen firsthand. I've seen for a while. Just the importance of that position group. We really like the group right now we're working with. It's just another opportunity to possibly bring in another good football player to help us win, close quote, Zack. So I don't know, dude. Usually in these kind of scenarios, when it's a meeting, to me, it smacks of the health thing. They have some questions about health. And even though he had a productive season, they want to check that out. And if he passed, they'll probably sign him, dude, here in the next few days.
It's just crazy. Like I wrote in the article last week, a week ago, Sean Payton was waxing poetic about Audric Estime and saying that they want to see what he was drafted for, the qualities that made him a draft pick, and he's going to get the opportunities alongside RJ Harvey. Now they're bringing in JK Dobbins. So I'm genuinely kind of thrown off the trail, Chad, as to how they feel about the backfield. I thought a couple weeks ago they like the young players, they like the incumbents, they like RJ Harvey, but now it's a little more complicated.
And I think they do. I think they're excited about Harvey and company, but it's something about having that veteran presence. And you don't even have to view it, Zack, as a fail-safe. It's more about, that extra set of eyes who's been down the road a few times to help these young dudes, and whether it's film study, this defense, that defense. But I liked what he did last year. He missed some games. He did miss 4 games right kind of down the stretch. Came back for the final 2 with the Chargers, but Zack against the Broncos. So he missed the second Bronco game, but in the first game, 25 carries. They fed him, dude, just shy of 100 yards and a touchdown. He gave the Broncos some troubles in that game, and I think he's the kind of guy that if you needed a workhorse, maybe Audric Estime is that guy. Sean Payton sure sounded like he was going to be that guy last week, but if you're worried still about the fumbles or whatever, Dobbins can be that guy, and you still let RJ do his thing.
Dobbins is a good football player. He had almost 1,000 yards despite the injury-shortened season with the Chargers last year. He's obviously talented. The problem is he's never healthy. So you wonder how much he can really contribute when he's on the sideline or on the trainer's table. What I do like that he brings to the table that the Broncos lost with Javonte Williams going to Dallas is that Dobbins is a great pass protector. So look at the signing, if they make it, as not so much helping the backfield, which they are, but helping Bo Nix out and giving him another protector.
So real quick, and then we'll turn the page and jump into the chat. He averaged, let's just call it 70 yards rushing last year per game in the games he was in, right? So he did miss 4. But if you take 70, extrapolate that over 17 games, that would have been a 1,200 yard rushing season if he doesn't miss the 4 games. So that's production. And I still think he's a guy whose actual potential, a lot of this having to do with his misfortune, but his actual potential is still relatively untapped, Zach. And he's surprisingly young. Were it not for the injury stuff, this dude would have been swept up a long time ago. That's why he's lingered a little bit. I think he's only 26, if memory serves. So I can see why the Broncos are interested in him.
He'd still be with the Chargers as their starting running back. You're right. If he didn't have the injury jacket, and Ralph Bracekirtle asked a good question: what running back would he push out? And I'm wondering, Chad, if they sign him or the interest in Dobbins is not so much an indictment on McLaughlin or Estime, but maybe Blake Watson or Tyler Bidet. Sean Payton today singled out Bidet, saying he's gotten better in pass protection. Right. What did I just say about Dobbins is that he's good in pass pro. So maybe it was to light a fire or keep them on their toes. I don't know.
We got the Papa Bear checking in, who's been in everybody's thoughts and prayers. David McElrath with an early super. Thank you, pal. He says, good evening, Broncos country. My procedure went well. Waiting for the doctor's appointment to verify negative results. We'll keep you posted. So I take that to mean our interpretation of that, Papa Bear, is that the initial procedure showed negative results, but you're waiting on one more doctor appointment to fully confirm that. And if so, great news. Like the Duchess is saying right here. So happy to hear that, David. I told you so and prayed for your health. I love it. Great stuff. And thank you for the super, Duchess, and for all of your positivity and support that you bring to the community. But Papa Bear, dude, awesome. Glad to hear it, buddy. Thank God.
Yeah, thank God is right. We're going to take an optimistic slant to the comment. Like Chad said, David, thank you so much for your contribution, but even more so, prayers work and good thoughts work, and we all have been praying for you, and we will continue to.
Sam Bam also jumping in. Great to see you, my friend. One of our Mount Rushmore superstars in the house. 3 already tonight. Sam says, evening, Chad, Zach, and Scott. Any truth to the possibility of adding Dobbins? Absolutely. I mean, he was there today. If so, do you think the Broncos even need him? And what would it mean for Estime and McLaughlin? Go Broncos 11-6. Do they need him? Like gun to head style, gotta have it? No. But it was even after RJ was drafted, I still was like, you know what? There's still a couple of guys out there that the Broncos could bring in that I could see being just, whether it's as kind of a fail-safe role, the veteran guy that helps bring the young guys along. I mean, that room is still, Zach, very young. Jaleel McLaughlin, a third-year pro, is the elder statesman. And he's actually, if you look at Dobbins' career, Zach, he hasn't been in the league all that much longer than McLaughlin. Okay, he's entering year 5. McLaughlin's entering year 4. But the difference is reps and time on task and how much of the NFL he's seen and all that stuff. So I just think it couldn't hurt. I really don't think it could hurt. And if it bumps anybody off, this is the kind of thing we won't know who that bumps off till we get to the end of August and they basically do the final cuts. But, if they bring him in, there is some red tape, Zach, relative to that uber rare free agent tender that the Chargers placed on Dobbins. So there are some ramifications there. I don't think they'll worry themselves over those ramifications, Zach, and sign him unless they really think he's healthy. If he's healthy, they'll do it and bring him in. So we'll see in the next few days, Sam.
Yeah, it's really a luxury type move for the Broncos, like Chad was laying out. They don't need him. That's the beauty about drafting RJ Harvey and bringing back a host of other young running backs. It would be like a cherry on top of what you've done this offseason to build up Bo Nix's supporting cast. So I was asked on Twitter, what happens if the Broncos don't sign Dobbins? Life goes on. They move on with the running backs they already have. And Estime is kind of like a poor man's Dobbins. So they already, they have their lightning and thunder approach already on the roster.
I'm trying to find here. Nick did some good research on the news article from yesterday reporting that Dobbins is going to visit. He visited today. This is from here. I'll just read this real quick. So, quote, he's likely still available due to the Chargers placing an unrestricted free agent tender on him, as well as the litany of injuries he's suffered. According to ESPN, Dobbins applies to the compensatory draft formula for the 2026 draft if he signs with another team before July 22nd this year. If he doesn't sign with another team, the Chargers will hold exclusive negotiation rights. If Dobbins does sign, the Broncos could possibly miss out on a compensatory pick next year. And then this is from Nick Corte of Over the Cap that, quote, JK Dobbins currently has $1.64 million on a June 1st tender on the table from the Chargers. If the Broncos sign him for more than about $3 million, they would cancel out what might be their only 2026 comp pick, which is the 7th rounder for Riley Dixon going to Tampa. But there's also the other news, Zach. Earlier in the offseason, I'm trying to remember the arithmetic, but last I checked, the Broncos had 2 7th-round comp picks coming to them. So anyway, that's just some of the weeds, like some of the details. If they had the medical stuff on Dobbins and it passed, then they'll sign him. If not, they won't bother with all that stuff.
Yeah, they're in a championship window right now. I don't think they're going to worry about a measly late-round draft pick if they can pick up a potential 1,000-yard rusher. And even if he helps the Broncos win one more football game, that signing will have been worth it. So we'll see what happens.
Guys, lots more that we are going to be getting to tonight. But first, listen, summer's here. It feels great. Everything's growing. It's beautiful. It's warm out. And DraftKings Casino just as hot, baby. New offers and promos sprouting up daily. Right now, new players can play $5 on anything and get 350 casino spins instantly on a featured slot game. Download the app, sign up with our code MileHighPod, and take the featured slot for a spin, exploring also thousands of other games in the DraftKings library.
That's right. Check back daily to claim the hottest offers and promos on DraftKings Casino. And don't forget our code MileHighPod. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. 21 plus, physically present in Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia only, void in Connecticut and Ontario. Eligibility restrictions apply. New customers only. Non-withdrawable casino spins valid for featured game only and expire in 168 hours. See terms at casino.draftkings.com/promos. Ends June 15th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern.
All right, let's go back to the chat. So today was basically marked the end of the second voluntary mini camp. The next one is the mandatory mini camp. Then it's over. The offseason's over. And the Broncos opted to shorten their offseason practice schedule. They had the prerogative, Zach, of having 10 practices total on the grass. But Sean Payton, for reasons I don't quite understand, opted to go with 6 instead. So that's that. We'll get more into that. Lady D jumping in. What is up? Thank you so much
thank you, Dan.
for the generous super. Great to see you. And she's got a message, too, for the Papa Bear. Hello, all. So happy all went well for you, Papa Bear. I think they are fine with who they have, the Broncos. I think they'll use the money to pay who we have that needs paid. Hashtag MHH for life. Yeah, the thing is, we're not talking about too much money here. In the case of Dobbins, he'd come in, Zach, probably on a 1-year deal and probably no more than $3 million. No more than $3 million. And the last time I looked, I can pull it up here again. The Broncos salary cap is somewhere
16.
around, what was it?
I think it was 16 and change.
Yeah, so they've got the lettuce. And by the way, it's more incentive for the Broncos to get these, at least 1 or 2 of these extensions done sooner than later. Like in the case of Zach Allen, Zach, they can go in and free up money for this year's salary cap and all that stuff. The salary cap voodoo can take place, but you got to get started on those extensions.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, especially with Dobbins. I don't think he'd command that much on a 1-year prove-it type deal where he's going to rehab his value. And it would be loaded with incentives for rushing yards, wins, touchdowns, things like that. But I kind of understand Deanna's point, too, where it's like you're good at running back with who you have. Any amount of money, every penny should go to paying the superstars on your team that are worthy of those contracts. If that's the point she's trying to make, then I understand the argument.
Ralph, you mentioned this earlier, Zach, but here's his comment saying a veteran in the backfield is a good thing. JK is a beast. I'm just not sure about too many abbreviated first names in the backfield, right? RJ, yes, indeed. JK, for sure. Appreciate you, Ralph. Eric Flynn, good to see you in the chat tonight, my brother. Also, we have David Youngkin checking in on Super Chat. Don't think JK will be a 3-down back if he is signed. Well, you got to remember, Sean Payton's a running back by committee guy in the first place. So you're not really seeking, David, a bell cow. Now, if by that you mean a do-it-all kind of guy, I mean, I think Dobbins, he upgrades your pass pro. I do think way too much gets made over, can the back pass protect? I mean, the whole point of a third down back is to draw attention as a receiver, right? I mean, it's only when the defense is showing some kind of a blitz that the quarterback's going to keep him in to help block anyway. But just for the sake of this, I mean, 2020, his rookie year in Baltimore, Zach, receiving, where's the reception? So 18. His career high was this last season with the Chargers, 32 receptions, 153 yards. So he's not going to come in and be some blazing receiver, blowing everybody's mind, Zach, with route running, but he doesn't need to be. That's honestly a big reason why they drafted RJ Harvey.
So much has been made over it, though, with running backs the last couple seasons in Denver. Phillip Lindsay, Javonte Williams. It is a plus quality that Dobbins can catch, but there's going to be a rotation. Whether it's RJ Harvey and Estime or RJ Harvey and JK Dobbins, there's going to be, like Chad said, a committee approach.
Phil jumping in on Facebook. So good to see you, brother. Thank you, pal. He says, good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. I figure that Dobbins would be playing half as many snaps as last year, and he provides possible run or block options, keeping defenses on their toes. Buckham, Broncos for life, MHH for life. Yeah, that's a good point. He was the tip of the spear when he was healthy anyway, Zach, for the Chargers last year. And the Broncos wouldn't need him. They don't really play that way. I mean, just seeing the one game against the Broncos where he had 25 carries shows you the philosophical difference between, say, a Jim Harbaugh and a Sean Payton relative to running back usage.
I think you said it best earlier. If he didn't have the injury history, he'd still have a job, and as an entrenched starter at that. So the Broncos have a chance to get a good player, and like Sean Payton said, he would help the Broncos win more football games, which is the ultimate purpose here.
Exactly. BLD, what's up, dude? Great to see you.
Thank you.
Which undrafted free agent is standing out from what you guys have heard? Honestly, I'll tell you, I haven't heard too much of any undrafted guys standing out. Like nobody's really been writing home about any of the undrafted guys, except that one receiver did draw some stuff. What's his name, Zach?
Joaquin Davis?
That's him. So, but he faces, Zach, all those receivers they face that are undrafted, and the fringe roster guys. It's a tough uphill battle because that depth chart is the top 5 guys is pretty well settled, right? Sutton, Vele, who is a guy that's been getting some buzz. Like people have been really impressed by what Vele is showing just in OTAs. Granted, no contact, no pads, all that. But Sutton, Zach, Vele, Mims, Franklin, Bryant. So that 5 guys is relatively set. There's an opportunity for one more slot, probably. And that's if the Broncos don't bring in another veteran that gets cut from another team later on or whatnot. So anyway, the undrafted guys that are the most interesting relative to keeping the, 20 out of the last 21 years of undrafted rookies made the roster thing alive are the trench guys on both sides of the ball. There's some interesting, especially on offensive line, Zach.
Yeah, and the inside linebackers we talked about, I think on what's today?
Kareem Reed.
Kareem Reed and Johnny Walker Jr., I think. So one of them, there would be a more immediate path to playing time, BLD. I would look to that group, the inside linebackers. I would watch them over the summer.
Leroy, he wants to know with Dobbins leaving without a contract, is it good news or bad news? I would say it's neither with what we know about kind of how the Broncos do business. They're not super heavy on the pressure sell. You know what I mean? They kind of make their pitch. This, if anything, Zach, it's a little bit trickier, this particular recruitment, because of the weird, not just that he's coming from a division rival thing, but that division rival put this free agent tender on him. Almost never used. So that does complicate things. But I think today's visit, Zach, was about one thing: health. Let our doctors run him through a physical and let's see what's what. And now let's say it was good. Let's say the results of that medical exam was fine. Nothing that freaks him out beyond a 1-year kind of rental. Maybe they still have to hash out the money. So I'm not reading too much into it at this point anyway. But if they brought him in, that's a strong sign, obviously, Zach, of interest. So really, I think it comes down to how do those medicals look?
Yeah, and That's the beauty of it, though, to me, is like they don't have to sign him. They didn't feel pressure to offer him more money or guarantee him a contract. If he wants to join the team at their price, great. If not, then like I said earlier, life goes on. So the Broncos put themselves in a good position with the addition of RJ Harvey.
Drew Hudick, welcome, dude. That's a newer name. Welcome. Thank you very much for the super chat, big dog. Appreciate you. Says, while I love his work ethic, I'm sorry, but I don't believe Jaleel McLaughlin broke one tackle last year. If JK replaces McLaughlin, I'm happy. Did it freeze? Did I just freeze?
A little bit.
Did I just freeze? Sorry, let me kick this off again. If JK replaces McLaughlin, I'm happy. But if he cuts into RJ's touches, Zach, I'll be extremely disappointed. Your thoughts here for Drew?
That's exactly how I feel, Drew. I don't mind the addition of JK Dobbins. I've been pretty set on not adding a veteran running back, going to war with who they have. I don't mind the addition of Dobbins so long. The one condition is that he doesn't impede the development of RJ Harvey. RJ should still be RB1. He should still be the future. He is the long-term answer, I think. And Dobbins is the secondary, the auxiliary. That's the only way I could reckon with the addition of JK Dobbins. Thank you, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing about Jaleel. His game isn't so much about breaking tackles. I mean, don't get me wrong. Every running back at some point that's got to be in the toolkit, even if you're a smaller guy. But that's one of the nice things about RJ is he's shorter, but he's big. You know, he's 205 pounds. Audric Estime is a bruiser up in the 220s. So you got those guys already, and McLaughlin comes in as a little bit more of a change of pace guy, a slasher type running back, Zach, that can also contribute in the passing game. And by the way, even if let's say there was a consensus in this room, Drew, right now, we're all like, yeah, Dobbins over McLaughlin. That's not how the Broncos see it. Sean Payton loves him some Jaleel McLaughlin. Jaleel's got some roots there. So for a guy who's produced as little as it's kind of surprising, but he's got fans in the building.
That's what I was going to say. More than anything else, he has the support and the trust of Sean Payton, who leaned on him last season above everybody else. It was a horrible backfield, unreliable, inconsistent, but it seemed like Jaleel was the most consistent. And go back and watch the Buccaneers game. There were times where he could do what nobody else could do in terms of the Broncos running back.
Yeah, it ends up the alphabet running back room for sure if it ends up with JK. Kind of funny. Grover, what's up, dude? Again, Drew, thank you, buddy. Grover jumping in saying, evening, y'all. Just saw a post from another Broncos page saying CJ Mosley would be a good insurance signing for Denver. Thoughts? MHH for life. Broncos for life. I would not hate it. I wouldn't. I wrote about this myself a couple weeks ago, Zach, saying that it's not so much insurance on a health perspective because he has some of his own injury concerns off the top of my head. He had 2 that he dealt with in his final year with the Jets last year. But he brings in that presence and that option so that if there's any kind of setback with Singleton, if Dre Greenlaw doesn't quite turn the corner with that quad or just any of that stuff, you got a top dog ready to rock. And I think you probably could get 1 or 2 more years out of Mosley, but I don't really think it's going to happen. I wrote about it because to me it would make sense depending on the price, but I don't think the Broncos are thinking that way.
Yeah, you were the one who first put that out there, so I wonder if this other page is citing you here. But I'll say the same thing I said at the time. If they did suffer a setback, if we cross that bridge when we come to it, or if we come to it, then yeah, I would go out and explore the free agent market. But just like with Estime, Chad, Sean Payton keeps talking up Drew Sanders, and George Payton did as well. They see him as a potential future starter. They want to give him the opportunity. So I would lean more toward giving the younger guy the chance than bringing in someone who's injury prone to replace or, supplement 2 injury prone players.
Right. Grover, great to see you, by the way, big dog. Thank you. Drew's giving us some specifics. Hudick. Okay. Good to know, big dog. Thank you. Says, I've been with you guys all season. Love the show. Thank you, brother. And we really appreciate the super chat, especially this time of year, dude. Trust helps out a lot. Ronk, what's going on, big dog? Good evening, Chad and Zach on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Bo Broncos. I love it. It's great to see the mayor of our MHH Facebook community officially in the house tonight. Phil says, have you guys heard of a possible trade with the Lions, Zach, that would send Luke Wattenberg to them and Jamison Williams to us. What have you heard on this front? I haven't heard anything about it.
No, I think I saw this on Twitter or one of the Bleacher Report, 10 potential trades teams should make. I don't think this was anything legitimate, Phil, and I don't know that I would like it. The Broncos are so flush with receivers. Meanwhile, if you trade away Wattenberg, who are you starting? Alex Forsythe or an undrafted free agent? Wattenberg is sneakily one of the better pass protectors on the offensive line. I want to see what he can do in year 2 as a starter under Sean Payton.
He might be on one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, Zach. Wattenberg might be technically the weak link, but it's by degrees here. He did play well. He had a little bit of an injury. This would make more sense. It really would depend on how the Broncos view Alex Forsythe. Like if they were still I thought they were this time last year, Zach, I thought Forsythe was going to, if you had asked me, and I'm sure some of you did, I expected him to be the new center replacing Lloyd Cushenberry, but they went with Wattenberg. And when Wattenberg suffered that injury, he was out a couple, 2-3 weeks, whatever it was. Forsythe did play well in his place. Really good pass protector, if memory serves, not as good as a run blocker. I'm trying to think back, but either way, it would depend on how they view him. And by the way, that time spent as the starter in place of Wattenberg preceded the big snafu at Arrowhead on special teams that led to the block field goal attempt. But they also have that kid, Clay Webb, Zach, who has some legit upside. But everybody I've talked to thinks he's about a year away from really being someone you could rely on.
Yeah, you want to plug a rookie undrafted free agent into the most pivotal offensive line position or second most important offensive line position, communicating with Bo Nix? Certainly not. And I think you nailed it a couple pods ago with Alex Forsythe, Chad. He'll never really shake the stink of that incident at Arrowhead, him falling down and blowing that game. I don't think, he'll ever live that down in the fan base. And I wonder if the front office has the same feelings attached.
I know, dude. It's going to be tough to live that one down. And it's so tragic because, it's not his real full-time gig, but still it is offensive line and it's the same principle. Stop the guy in front of you from breaking through, right? Offensive line, it's blocking. So it is a bummer, but John Van Tool, hello, everyone, Broncos country. Glad to catch you live. What have I missed? Have we signed? No, haven't signed JK. He left without a contract, but I will emphasize again, guys, doesn't mean the Broncos aren't going to sign him. Really boils down to what those medicals revealed. Because they brought him in, they went through all that rigmarole. It's because they like him. They have a place for him, but they got to mind their P's and Q's. Big Earn, good to see you, brother. Go Broncos country only. Amen to that always, bro. Okay, Zach, to some of the keys, takeaways, storylines, etc. One of them I want to get your thoughts on. I already mentioned Devon Vele looking so good. What do you make of that? And could he be, like I wrote about this today, but we can talk about it here in a minute, what Sean Payton said about Marvin Mims after today's practice. But could it be maybe that Vele is the guy in line for the bigger kind of breakout 2025 campaign?
I think he has the highest floor of Franklin, Mims, and Vele. I don't know about his ceiling, Chad, but he's the old reliable. He has mostly reliable hands. Bo Nix can trust him over the middle of the field. He's good in traffic. He can make contested catches. But Sean Payton's also talked up Troy Franklin the last 2 weeks in forecasting an ascension and a Marvin Mims type breakout. And he even talked about Marvin Mims today and said that, you saw it last season and you see him keep going forward this year. So may the best man emerge as the number 2 receiver. I think it's going to be a 3-way battle for that spot, Chad.
Pearl, great to see you tonight, my friend. Here's what Sean Payton today said about Troy Franklin, and he talked about him last week as well. The one last week was more in response. It was Sean Payton kind of bringing up Franklin on a question that was more about Marvin Mims. This one was a direct question about Troy Franklin, what steps he's taken this offseason. And he says, quote, "You haven't been able to see all the plays in these practices, right? But there have been a number of explosive plays. He can run, and I would say a strength of his is ball in hand after the catch. He can run after the catch. Troy Franklin, Zach, doing well."
And you saw, I mean, he had the tough drops. He had a really disconnected rookie season with Bo Nix. That's surprising considering they killed it at Oregon. But you saw in the playoff game what he can bring to the table, the explosiveness, the long ball opportunities. And if he can just harness that and be consistent from down to down, the Broncos have a legitimate game breaker at receiver.
How important is Mike McGlinchey and Garrett Bowles to the offensive line coach and the overall offense? He mentions Wattenberg here, by the way. That's why I'm reading this. And he says, quote, all five are important in the way they play. Luke Wattenberg did a good job coming in last year. The experience and the toughness of that group is extremely important, close quote. Zach, Garrett Bowles was excused from a voluntary practice today. He had something going on, some kind of personal leave thing. But Wattenberg, I'm just telling you, I think this team – I'm not quite sure why they love him so much, Zach, but the Broncos seem to really like Wattenberg, and he was in that class that preceded Sean Payton's arrival. But Sean Payton seems to really dig him.
Sean's always had an affinity for linemen that are a little rough around the edges, a little raw, that he can turn, into a diamond from the rough. And that's what Wattenberg is. What was he, a 5th-round pick a couple of years ago?
Right.
Middle round guy, didn't have the best scouting report, didn't have the best attributes, but in Sean Payton and Zach Strief's system, he just works. Not the best run blocker, but he's stonewalled more often than not in pass pro.
Some other things that were said today, I thought it was kind of cool, Zach. Evan Engram, I don't necessarily need to read a bunch of his quotes, but emphasized how big of a role Bo Nix played in the recruitment process, both kind of passively, in other words, the draw that he was just based on what Engram knew about him, having watched some of his film, all that stuff. Also, what his boy Davis Webb was telling him, because those two were part of the same Giants draft class in 2017. Engram was a 1st-rounder, Webb out of Texas Tech, a 3rd-rounder. But that Bo Nix, when Engram made his free agent visit, we referenced that earlier, drawing the parallels to Dobbins. Bo Nix made sure to be present when he was making the rounds at the facility, and then they sat down together and had lunch while he was there, Engram. So Bo Nix, Zach, both active. We'll grab you 1 second, Gene. Hang tight, bro. But Bo Nix playing, we heard it from Talanoa Hufanga as well. Big role now in terms of the recruitment. Like, he helps lube the deals a little bit.
It's amazing what happens when you have a franchise quarterback. But when in Ingram's case, he left the Broncos and visited with the Chargers, and then he signed with Denver. So the implication there, Chad, is he would rather play with Bo Nix than Herbert. Gotta love it.
That's what I thought. Gene William, what's up, dude? Yo, just dropping in, working, so I can't hang, but I can't wait to listen on my way home. Dude, so thank you for checking in, bro. Hope you enjoy it, the conversation on your drive back, and thanks for checking in, big dog. Great to see you. All right, we're doing okay on time, 33 minutes. Zach, and by the way, Gene, big boy stars, thank you, pal. Really appreciate it. Chase in the house. What's up, dude? Good to see you. I believe Zach Strief was undrafted. Another lineman Sean Payton molded. Was he? Let me double check that. I'm not saying you're wrong, my brother. I'm just double checking it. This is the kind of thing I would know if he was a player. No, he was 7th round, barely drafted, though. Barely drafted, Zach. Zach Strief was an 06 7th rounder, but part of that maiden Sean Payton draft class as year 1 head coach in New Orleans.
Yeah, but same point. He likes those late round guys. He likes those hidden gems that he can be the one, Chad, to turn into the next star player. That's why it was a little surprising when they used, what was it, a 1st-round pick on Ryan Ramczyk in 2017, the Garrett Bowles draft. Usually he's finding the middle round guys. Like Wattenberg.
That's true. Gives you a little encouragement that if with the Saints, a Sean Payton football team was willing to draft a tackle in the 1st round, maybe they'll eventually get back to that, Zach, because McGlinchey and Bowles are starting to get a little bit longer in the tooth, and they're really expensive guys. Both of them are going to be around for a while. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, wasn't Bowles the last tackle, Zach, that was actually an actual draft pick? I can think of a few other names, but
if you don't count Reisner.
No, he was drafted to play guard.
Right. That's and Bowles was the last one then, sadly.
Have you heard if Reisner signed anywhere?
No. I saw Reisner get pancaked in a Madden release video, though, so that was kind of funny.
Some things never change, eh?
Art imitating life.
Yeah, it looks like still a free agent, but he was kind of teasing a possible like Broncos reunion, and we got a bunch of questions about it. I don't think it's going to happen. Let me see. Patrick, what's up, bro? Aloha back at you, my brother. Priest and Deacon Scott, I really get a good vibe about next season. Any news on Dobbins? The only news, again, my brother, is that he left without a deal. So our takeaway from that is that the Broncos are maybe still evaluating the medicals and maybe the money, whatever the ask is, and some of the ramifications. They might have to legitimately, Zach, do some arithmetic to figure out, is it going to cost us our comp pick? So they'll have to figure it out. But I still think so long as he passed the medicals, they'll end up signing him, or else they wouldn't have brought him in.
I'll throw out another kind of competing theory here. The Broncos put out a highlight clip today of Bo throwing to Jaleel McLaughlin out of the backfields. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, Chad, but maybe the Broncos behind the scenes, they were a little more assured with what they saw out of McLaughlin and Bidet and Watson and Estime, where they decided they don't need JK Dobbins, but we'll see what happens. Thank you, Patrick.
So good to see you, bro. Scott just made me laugh in the chat. Zach is the last thing he said in the private chat. Made me chuckle a little bit. Yeah, all good, Chase. I mean, potato, undrafted 7th round. You know, these are guys that entered the league by the skin of their teeth, right? So your point still remains solid one, brother. Another lineman, late round, who Payton helped mold, no doubt about it. Yeah, exactly, bro. Devon Vele, he's been one of the standouts so far. Glenn, down under, what's up, saying I don't want to waste money that can go to Nick Bonito, Sutton, Zach Allen, or a replacement if needed on Dobbins. Building this room from the ground up is what I love. If he's wanted, then hashtag I trust Payton and Payton. Yeah, that's the thing is that's basically, Zach, that's my default mode on almost all personnel. If it's the draft, I trust it even more because I just love Payton, George Payton, that is, in the draft. And then with Sean Payton's eye, etc. But just personnel in general, Sean Payton up to this point, even if you take away everything he did in New Orleans and just go off of what he's done as 2-year head coach in Denver, I think he's earned everybody's trust a little bit. So if he sees things a certain way, even if on the surface, kind of go, I'm not sure I'd go that way. Hashtag in Payton we trust. Really, he's earned it, I think.
This is how I felt about quarterback before the draft last year. I wanted McCarthy, then I wanted Drake May, but I said, whoever Sean Payton picks, whoever Sean Payton decides, I'll support and I'll trust. Same here. The Broncos don't need Dobbins, but if he decides that he can help the Broncos win more football games, then I'll support it. But I think Glenn's point here, Chad, is the same that Deanna made earlier, where why waste money on another running back when you could put that cash toward your extension eligible players?
Maybe Sean Payton just wants that guy who, if push came to shove and he wanted to hand it off 20 times in a game without worrying and holding his breath every time a fumble, if he wants that, he at least has the option in a Dobbins. Similar kind of power guy that you can, I mean, again, you look at Audric Estime's game logs last year, Zach. Sean Payton used him as a battering ram against the Chiefs in both games. Double-digit carries in both games. And but still, you got the little bit of the fumbleitis concern, even though he cleaned it up. But remember, 2 of Audric Estime's first 9 carries as a pro put it on the ground.
I would assume here that Dobbins' role would be to be a early down banger, goal line back, every other series kind of rotational back. I don't understand why Estime couldn't fill that role as you just laid out, Chad. He's a younger version of him, and you don't have the injury concerns. You have your speed guy, the shifty guy in RJ Harvey. You have the scat back in McLaughlin. If you don't need Dobbins, you could go forward with Estime in that role.
True. Ronk jumping in saying Bo Nix is showing leadership beyond his years. Yeah, in more ways, than meet the eye, so to speak. Like that's another something that Evan Engram said today. I'll just read some of it. He said, let me see. The potential, so Nix's potential, quote, the potential is through the roof, and even better is just the way he is as a man, as a worker, as a leader. It's been really great to get to know him on and off the field. I just love the way he approaches each and every day. I love the way he builds relationships with his teammates. And then he goes on to talk about the lunch that he had with him when he was on his visit. So Bo Nix knows how to lead the right way, and you kind of expect it. You'd wonder if it wasn't there, being the son of a coach and all that stuff. But his dad taught him the right way, former Auburn quarterback himself. That's where the original Nix for Six thing came from, was his father. So, Bo Nix, man, God bless him.
He's been coaching up his teammates on the field this year. He doesn't have to think as much, he said, so he can just react now. And he's talking like a coach. We mentioned that a couple pods ago when he was asked about RJ Harvey. He said he sounded like Sean Payton. He goes, can't really tell anything without pads on, so, ask me again in the summer. Very mature, and he was always wise beyond his years, married at 24 years old, very grounded, and great in the community as well, Chad. Always going to the Rockies games, Avalanche games, Nuggets games. Just a great guy overall, man. Gotta love Bo.
Absolutely. Bo Nix, dude. I mean, the thing he's got going for him too, when you see him out there now as a year two guy, coaching up his teammates and being more of that wellspring of wisdom and instruction, and making sure it's a little bit harder to do that when you're stuck in a three-way competition for a starting job as a rookie, and you're a rookie. And then even after you've won the job and you're the starter, there's certain things that are going to devolve to you. If you see it, you got to say something, etc. But you don't quite have guys want to believe in you, but at the same point, you're a rookie, dude. Keep your mouth shut. Now he's got enough skins on the wall, Zach, where he doesn't. I'm not saying stick out his chest and be pompous or anything, but when he speaks now, guys are listening, for a reason, and it's just really encouraging all around. Bo Nix, baby, let's go.
He was in a three-way competition. He was a rookie, and then he had to learn Sean Payton's offense. And over the course of the year, Chad, you saw it was not an easy process. It's a very, very complex system. And I still think back to, was it week 2 or week 3, where Sean Payton was spinning a play into the huddle, and Bo Nix was like getting visibly it was overwhelming for him. And over the course of the year, you saw him settle down. You saw the game slow down, and he got better and he matured. Now he's fully taken the bull by the horns, not having to think about anything at all.
Indeed. Okay, I'm going to shift gears for a second here. Ronk jumping in to say Peyton Manning is going to be part of an ownership group of the National Women's Soccer League, the NWSL Denver soccer team. Yeah, cool, man.
Eat your heart out, Indy.
Exactly. Just more and more evidence of where his true allegiance lies, RIP to Jim Irsay. And please, nobody take what I'm about to say as me speaking ill of the dead. But when it comes to Peyton Manning and his pride and the memory of an elephant and all that, you cut one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks of all time who went on to play 4 more really good years, earned another MVP, set multiple records, the 55 touchdowns, Zach, the year he won that MVP, the most yardage in a season, all that. So it's weird, man. He played 14 years. That's a long time in Indy. 4 years here, 14, 4. And yet the roots, they've sunk in Denver more so than in Indy. And I can speak to that. Like, I know a lot of people in this business that cover the Colts, and he'll be there for Zach, like when they do the alumni things, and especially when the Colts celebrate that 2006 Colts Super Bowl team. But like, he hangs his hat in Denver, dude. So Peyton Manning, the sheriff's a Bronco through and through.
Same thing with Von Miller. No matter where else he'll play, what else he'll do, he'll always bleed orange and blue. And that rhymed.
So nice, poet, and you didn't even know it. I'm gonna shift gears here, Zach. So we got 2 guys besides Coach Payton at the podium today, Evan Engram and DJ Jones. He of the 1 or 2 sentences in his answers. So it's like a DJ Jones presser lasts like a minute and a half because he's just like bam, bam, bam. Question. Anyway, he did say a few interesting things, though. He was asked to give his opinion on the Broncos' 3rd round defensive lineman, the rookie Savion Jones. Jones said, DJ that is, quote, he will be special one day. He's young right now. He's eager to learn, but he will be very special one day. And then he was asked to kind of expound upon that. Why did he say that? Quote, he has length, he loves to learn, and he played in the SEC. as he kind of laughed. But giving some props, Zach, to Savion, the rookie 3rd-round pick.
I love what DJ said too. He was asked about re-signing with the Broncos and if he thought he would ever leave Denver. And he goes, "No, that was just a tactic. That was just negotiation." And he's a great personality, Chad. I really like to see him behind the podium. But Savion might not get the playing time behind JFM and Zach Allen, but I still think, I said it on draft night, I think you said it as well, eventually he's going to be a starter, a long-term solution, an anchor, and what Draymond Jones should have been in the Mile High City.
He's also, DJ Jones, Zach, very high on Q Robinson, the 4th-round rush linebacker. He said, quote, "Same. He's an SEC guy who played against high competition. He's strong, as you can see. They both have the ability to be great." So I don't know if he was saying that about Q because it came immediately on the heels of Savion Jones, so as to kind of save face and not make it seem like he likes one rookie over the other. But positive things said about both guys.
And from what I read today, Q Robinson was terrorizing the quarterback out there at practice, at least getting pressure or just, being a menace off the edge. And if he's already catching on that quick in, voluntary OTAs, he's going to be something. And you add into that, Chad, you add Q Robinson into what the Broncos already have at pass rusher: Benito, Jonathan Cooper, Jonah Ellis, Dondre Tillman. Now you throw in Q Robinson. Good luck, NFL.
No doubt. Absolutely. Okay, I'm just doing another quick little survey to see if I missed any of the key things from today that we haven't touched on. By the way, Sean Payton on re-signing DJ Jones, how important was that, Coach? Quote, "It was important. He's important to what we do both in the run and the passing game. I consider him a leader and a really good football player." So that's what Payton said today about DJ. Also cool, Zach, to have both 2 Hall of Famers at the proceedings this week, Peyton Manning and Champ Bailey.
Yeah, one goat to another. Saw a picture of Champ and PS2 chatting it up on the sideline. So I love when the alumni and the legends come around Broncos Park.
All right, last thing I want to get to here is something that Sean Payton said about Courtland Sutton. "Hey, Coach, tell us what kind of resource Sutton is for a young quarterback like Bo Nix." Payton, quote, "I think Courtland, he's a resource for the team from a leadership perspective. There's a work ethic and a toughness and a consistency day to day that I think is a great benefit to a young quarterback," close quote. Okay, Coach, so now you got to make sure he gets re-signed. You said it. Great benefit to your young quarterback. Get him eat.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I'm Sutton's agent, I am highlighting those comments and throwing them back in the Broncos' face because they gave them leverage. And yeah, just pay Sutton. He showed up to voluntary OTAs. It was a showing of good faith and goodwill. Now the Broncos have to extend their end. Doesn't have to be a record-setting contract, but just lock him down for the long term or longer term.
All right, we're going to grab this from the Ronk, and then we got a few messages for you. Don't leave yet. Ronk says, Broncos should trade John Franklin Myers, Zach. Out of one of the Mile High podcasts wrote an article about it. Break it down, bro.
I can't remember what it was. An NFL analyst for, I think it was Bleacher Report. One of those outlets said that Broncos should consider trading JFM, considering his contract situation. He wants a new deal, and he's not holding out of OTAs because of his contract, but he does want to be paid. He's entering the final year of his contract. And the analyst, I can't remember who it was, mentioned
Gary Davenport.
There you go, from Bleacher. Mentioned the arrival of Savion Jones as another reason why they can afford to get rid of JFM. But why would you want to take away from a strength and make it a potential weakness? Keep JFM together with Zach Allen for one more year. Keep the band together for one final go of it, Chad, and go out there and attack.
I mean, especially if you got blown away with an offer, okay, never say never. But after what you saw, again, guys, we got to first get past the Chiefs before you can start dreaming about the Super Bowl and all that stuff. And after seeing how Fangio laid out the model, and look, the scheme was sound. Fangio's a wizard. For that reputation exists for a reason, Zach, but his scheme doesn't work as well. We saw it in Denver. If you don't get pressure with 4 guys, and the Eagles were able to do that with gusto in the Super Bowl, mainly D-line guys with their hand in the dirt. Broncos, they need as many of those guys as they can if they're going to try and replicate that same success against Mahomes twice this year.
And JFM set career highs across the board last season in tackles for loss and solo tackles and quarterback hit, whatever else it was. He's a really good football player, and I wouldn't trade him for a measly middle round draft pick. So I reject and denounce Chad, the NFL analyst's assertion that they should trade JFM.
And remember, a lot of the times these things, especially this time of year, that you'll see us write up, it's us bringing to your attention maybe something that a credible source around the NFL media sphere is saying about your Broncos. And we'll report what they said. We'll give you our kind of 2 cents in the article. Sometimes, Zach, it gets misinterpreted because it's your byline or it's my byline. They see our name as the author, that we're the ones asserting it. So not in this case, but it's kind of crazy how far Bleacher Report's come, because when I first got into this business, this was over 10 years ago, that was a joke. There was no original analysis of Bleacher Report, and the content that they did have, the original content, that is, was just not good. But they kind of rebuilt their image, I think, to a great degree, hiring good people to give original analysis. So, the old me would have cringed to have the site citing a Bleacher Report. Not anymore. They've done a good job to turn the ship around.
And they have a lot of those, top 10 articles or, potential trade scenarios. So it makes our job a little easier sometimes, and we appreciate that.
And they do a lot to help us out. They put our Twitter accounts in their feed. They run a lot of our articles in their Bleacher Report team stream. So props to them. Thank you, Ron. Great show tonight, Chad and Zach on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Bo Broncos. Guys, we got a couple messages for you. Then we're going to dip, but actually, a couple messages for you. Then we're going to look in the chat one last time. Then we're going to dip. So don't bounce.
Tremendous episode, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, and myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out mhhmerch.com. Get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can follow us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some of that merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, very, very important, as always, that you subscribe, you like, you share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
All right, a Mile High salute, special shout out to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters helping us keep the lights on tonight, like the Papa Bear, Michaela Parker, the Duchess, Sam Bam, Ralph Bracegirdle, David Yunkin, BLD, the Lady D, Deanna Hendry, Eric Flynn, Phil McLaughlin, Drew Hudick, Grover, The Ronk, Gene William. Love you guys. Thank you very, very much. And then lastly, here we got Todd Ostendorf saying, will the D-line be enough as it is to beat Buffalo? Zach, to beat Buffalo, not only do you got to have that pass rush, but what else, dude?
You have to run the ball, and you have to stop the run. It's two things the Broncos failed at miserably in that game, to keep it short.
You know what's crazy is the Broncos finished as a top 5 run defense, dude. To me, that doesn't seem congruent with what we saw. And so here's why. They would do a good job. Like, we used to complain about they would play down to their competition. Well, last year they did a good job of handling the lower competition. They'd shut them down. But against the bigger offenses with the Lamars or the Josh Allens, it's boom, it was like off to the races. So they would shut down opponents for 2-3 weeks, then play a real offense, get brutalized. So the D-line is the first step of the battle to stopping the run when you talk about the Bills. Second is that next line of defense, the linebackers. So you need your guys to be healthy. If it all goes according to plan, the way the Broncos have drawn it up on paper, and Alex Singleton stays healthy, Dre Greenlaw stays healthy, I like their chances against a team like Buffalo.
That's why Sean Payton mentioned going down the middle of the defense in terms, I think it was in February, Chad, of how the Broncos are going to improve. It's not just the defensive line and bringing back DJ Jones, and it's not just signing Greenlaw. You also signed Hufanga, who's going to play near the box, who's really good against the run, who can help other teammates identify certain plays and signals and things like that. So they made it a concerted effort to get better after that Buffalo loss.
All right, last thing, then we're going to dip. Todd says, as much as I like DJ Jones, I still believe during the draft and since we needed to do more to address defensive tackle this offseason than not drafting a defensive tackle in the first 3 rounds. Well, I mean, I guess it kind of depends on how you categorize Savion Jones, Zach. He isn't exactly a defensive tackle, although if he was playing in a 4-3, you could put him in there, like in pass rushing situations, he could play that, but the Broncos love them some DJ Jones. They did add to the D line. But yeah, as far as like that big run stuffing monster nose tackle type, they don't have that. But DJ Jones brings a lot of that, checks a lot of those same boxes, Zach. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And then he brings that kind of surprising quickness for a guy his size. So we'll see. I feel confident. Like, dude, the defensive line is not one of the spots on this team I'm worried about at all.
Yeah, I get the concern because that was what a lot of Broncos fans were saying after the draft. They should have took just a big run stuffing, huge nose tackle. But I do think they want to see what they have in the younger players, Awuzurike, Henningsen, and they really like Jordan Jackson from I think it was Air Force in 2022 draft pick, and he's going to be brought back on an exclusive rights deal. So Todd, if they don't sign anyone, and I understand the concern here, it's because they like a lot of the incumbents in house and they want to see what they can do.
Plus, baby, as Zach mentioned earlier, Hufanga, first responder. Remember, that's how Sean Payton described him. So anybody makes it to that second level, God forbid you make it to the third, you're going to be introduced to a guy named Hufanga. So it's going to be fun to see how it all comes together. And the Broncos are high on their defense. They've invested a lot. I mean, a lot of their moves this year, Zach, was adding strength to strength. So there's a reason for that. In the AFC, man, it's a murderer's row of offenses and quarterbacks. So time will tell if they did the right thing. I think they did. I think there's enough on offense, and they added enough on offense because you have Bo Nix that now you have, and with the special teams being now one of the best in the league, you have a very balanced team. There's a reason why now all of a sudden after last year, everyone laughing, Broncos have the worst this, the worst that, worst roster, this position group ranked last, yada, yada. Now they're like top 5, top 10, the way the roster is viewed. There's a reason for that.
You couldn't run the ball against Buffalo, you draft RJ Harvey. You might sign JK Dobbins. You couldn't stop the run, so you bring back DJ Jones. You sign Dre Greenlaw. You sign Hufanga. You even draft Zadeh Barron to help out with that capacity as well, Chad. So on paper, you're right, and it's true. The Broncos have done everything to improve from that Buffalo beatdown.
Samantha, glad you made it. Better late than never, my friend. Great to see you. All right, guys. Love you. We'll be back, Zach and I, Sunday night. Can't wait.
Have a great rest of your Thursday. Great start to your weekend. We'll see you Sunday. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.